It was the kind of day that felt just like any other, except that it wasn't. The sun was setting behind a thick layer of clouds, casting a dim orange glow over the city. I was sitting on the couch, trying to focus on the TV, when she walked in. Olivia. My girlfriend of 5 years. She had always been the picture of confidence, the kind of woman who could command a room with just a smile. I'd admired that about her, in the beginning. It was part of what made me fall for her, her independence, her drive. But now, as I watched her walk into the living room with that familiar look on her face, I had an unsettling feeling in my stomach. "Thomas, we need to talk," she said, her voice quieter than usual. I felt a chill. "About what?" I asked, already knowing something was coming. She sat down beside me, not close, just a little too far to be comfortable. She took a deep breath, then said the words I would never forget. "I think we should break up." The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I didn't speak. I just stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. It was like a bad dream, one I couldn't wake up from. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why? We've been together for 5 years, Olivia." She shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. "I've met someone else. Someone who I think is better for me." She finally looked at me, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of guilt and finality. A wave of disbelief hit me. "Better for you?" I repeated, almost laughing to myself in disbelief. "You're dumping me for someone else? Just like that?" She nodded. "I never meant for it to happen, Thomas. But he's someone who can give me more of what I need right now. I think I've outgrown you." Those words cut deeper than I expected. Outgrown me? I had given her everything. And now, I was just too small for her. Too small to keep up with the person she was becoming. I could feel the weight of her words settling on my chest like a boulder. But I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't even ask who this guy was. Instead, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let her see how badly she had broken me. I wasn't going to let her see my weakness. "Fine," I said, standing up. "If that's what you want, Olivia, then I won't stand in your way." She blinked, surprised at my calmness, and I could see the guilt flickering in her eyes. "Thomas, I'm sorry. This isn't easy for me either." I shook my head. "No. It's fine. You've made your decision." I grabbed my jacket off the back of the chair, walked toward the door, and without another word, I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I just walked out, my heart aching, but my mind already working on the next steps. I wasn't going to waste another second on someone who didn't value me. As I stepped into the cold night, I felt something inside me shift. I was done. I was done with Olivia, and I was done being the guy she didn't want. But that didn't mean I was going to let this defeat me. No. This was just the beginning of something new. I had been stuck in the comfort of a relationship, content to just exist beside someone who now saw me as a stepping stone. But now? Now, I was going to do the work. I was going to become the man she would wish she had never let go. The next chapter was mine, and it started the moment I walked out that door. I spent the first few days in a haze. It wasn't that I missed Olivia, at least, not exactly, but the idea of losing someone I had invested so much time into left a bitter taste in my mouth. I wasn't ready to wallow, though. Not for a second. I had a choice: I could sit around, playing the victim, or I could get better. Stronger. I could take this time, this painful moment, and turn it into something useful. So I threw myself into my career. I'd been content with my job as a mid-level analyst, but I knew I could do more. I took on extra projects, stayed late at the office, and started looking for ways to move up. I wanted a promotion. I wanted the kind of success that would make me stand out in a crowd. I could feel the difference in my work. Where I had once been content to simply do my job, now I was driven. I was hungry for more. And that hunger fueled me every day. But it wasn't just my career that I focused on. I knew that if I wanted to truly become someone who could turn heads, I needed to change my physical appearance as well. Olivia had always complained about how I dressed, how I didn't care about my body. It hurt at the time, but now, I saw it as an opportunity. I joined a gym, something I'd always put off. I started lifting weights, running, and eating better. I felt stronger, more alive with every workout. My body began to change, and with it, my confidence grew. The guy I had been, the one Olivia thought she could easily leave behind, was disappearing. Then came the makeover. I went to a tailor and bought a new wardrobe, sharp, tailored suits, crisp shirts, and shoes that made a statement. I didn't care if it was shallow. I was doing this for me, not for anyone else. I started noticing the looks. People at work. Friends I hadn't spoken to in a while. Women. It was strange at first, but I was beginning to realize that I had something they didn't expect. I wasn't just Thomas anymore. I was a version of Thomas that was about to make waves. I didn't contact Olivia. Not once. I knew she would come back eventually. She'd see me thriving, becoming someone she thought she had outgrown. And when that happened, I'd be ready. For now, I focused on myself. On growing my career, my body, my mind. And when Olivia finally realized what she had lost, I would make sure it was too late. Time passed faster than I expected. At first, I felt like I was treading water, waiting for some sort of breakthrough. But as weeks turned into months, I noticed something shifting in me. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I started noticing the subtle changes in how people treated me, how they saw me. I wasn't the guy who was overlooked anymore. I wasn't the guy people talked over or dismissed as fine, but not quite the one. No, I was the guy people noticed, the guy they respected, the guy they wanted. I threw myself into my social life more than I ever had before. I went out with friends, made new connections, and started dating again. I wasn't in any rush to jump into another serious relationship. That wasn't the point. I was living life for myself. I didn't care about Olivia anymore, I was too busy enjoying the life I was building. But then, about 6 months after she dumped me, I started to notice her again. Olivia. I saw her at a mutual friends gathering, standing across the room, talking to some guy I didn't recognize. She was laughing, tossing her hair over her shoulder, looking just as beautiful as she always had. But there was something different about her this time. She wasn't the confident woman I remembered. No, now she looked uncertain. I hadn't planned on confronting her, but she spotted me across the room and came walking over, her eyes wide as if she couldn't believe I was actually there. "Thomas," she said, her voice tentative. "I didn't expect to see you here." I could tell she was caught off guard, but I didn't show it. "Yeah, I'm here. Things have been good, you know." I smiled, and it was genuine. It was a smile of someone who had found peace, who had found strength again. She glanced at me, eyes scanning my appearance, tailored suit, confidence, posture that didn't hunch from insecurity. She seemed to falter for a second, but quickly recovered, her smile returning. "I'm glad to see you doing well," she said, though there was an awkwardness in her voice. She seemed uncertain. Was she expecting me to beg for her back? Was that what she was hoping for? "Oh, yeah," I said casually. "Life's been really good. You know, I've been focusing on a lot of things, work, fitness, social life. Keeping busy." There it was. I was talking to her, but not with the desperation she might have expected. Not with the vulnerability I once had. No, I was telling her exactly what she had refused to see, that I didn't need her to make me whole. And then came the moment I had been waiting for. She hesitated, looked around at the group we were standing with, then turned her attention back to me. "I've seen your posts. You're really out there, doing your thing," she said, her voice trailing off as she looked at me, and then, almost hesitantly, added, "You look different." "Good different." I chuckled lightly. "Yeah, well, I guess I'm just finally becoming the guy I was meant to be. Feels pretty good, honestly." I leaned in just slightly, my voice lowering. "Funny, isn't it? How people think they know what's best for us, only to realize we're better off without them." Her face flushed, but she quickly masked it with a forced smile. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Thomas. I was just confused. I didn't realize what I was leaving behind." I stared at her for a moment, studying her face. There was a flicker of regret there, but also something else. Something that made me realize just how much she had underestimated me. She thought I'd crumble. She thought I'd fall apart and beg for her back. But I had done the exact opposite. I had risen. "That's okay, Olivia," I said with a smile that barely touched my eyes. "You made your choice. And I made mine. And, honestly, I'm doing better than I ever was before." She stood there for a moment, stunned. She didn't know what to say. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to process the fact that I wasn't just okay, I was thriving. The realization hit her like a punch. She had thought she could discard me for someone she deemed better and leave me behind. But now, I was the one people admired, the one they wanted to be around. And she was stuck, realizing she had let go of something extraordinary. But before she could respond, I excused myself. "I'll catch you later, Olivia," I said with a cool smile, turning away before she could try to say anything more. I walked away from her, leaving her standing there, dumbfounded and lost. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had already proven what I set out to do. I was better off without her. It wasn't long before Olivia started trying to reach out to me again. Texts, calls, social media messages, she was everywhere. Each time, the tone grew more apologetic, more desperate. At first, it was the usual, "I miss you," and "we need to talk," but as time passed, it became more urgent. I let it drag on for weeks. I let her sweat. She needed to realize that I wasn't the same person anymore. She needed to understand that I wasn't going to let her back into my life just because she had regrets now. And then, one evening, I got a message from her that was different. "Thomas, I know I hurt you. I've seen everything you've been doing, and I realize now what I lost. Can we please meet? I've made a mistake." I could almost hear the desperation in her words. She wasn't the confident woman who had dumped me so easily. No, now she was the one begging for my attention. I agreed to meet her. Not out of a desire to get back together, but because I knew it was time. It was time to give her the one thing she hadn't expected, closure. And I was going to give it to her in a way that would make her regret everything. When we met, she was waiting for me at a cafe, looking just as beautiful as ever, but with a nervousness that didn't escape me. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup impeccable, but the way she sat there, fidgeting, told me everything. "Thomas," she started, her voice quieter than I remembered, "I know I made a huge mistake. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I've seen how much you've grown, and I held up my hand. "Olivia," I said calmly, cutting her off. "Let's not do this." She blinked, clearly caught off guard. "What do you mean?" I leaned back in my chair, my expression neutral. "I'm not interested in getting back together. I'm not interested in being your safety net. You made your choice. And I've made mine." Her face paled. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was speechless, and that's exactly how I wanted her to feel. "I think you've already wasted enough of my time," I said, standing up. "You had your chance, Olivia. But I'm not available anymore." I left the cafe, leaving her stunned and speechless behind me. She wouldn't be able to figure me out. She wouldn't be able to figure out why I wasn't available anymore. She would never understand that the man she thought she could discard had become someone she could never have again. And that was the sweetest kind of revenge. It didn't take long for Olivia to come to terms with what had happened. I could tell by the way she stopped texting me, the way she stopped calling. She would still like my photos on social media from time to time, but those interactions became fewer and farther between. I wasn't sure if it was because she had finally understood I wasn't coming back or if she was just too embarrassed to face me. But I could see it in the way people around me started reacting, more specifically, in the way she started reacting. Word had gotten around about the changes I had made. It wasn't just my work success or my appearance. It was the fact that I wasn't sitting at home pining away for someone who no longer wanted me. I was out living my best life. And Olivia, well, she had to watch it unfold from the sidelines. I started receiving invitations to events I wouldn't have even considered attending 6 months ago. Dinners, parties, exclusive gatherings, people wanted to be around me now. People who, not too long ago, had brushed me off. One night, I went out with a few colleagues to a high-end bar downtown. I wasn't expecting to run into Olivia, but when I walked in, there she was. She was with some guy, one of those men who looks like he spends all his time in the gym and at fancy clubs. The kind of man she always seemed to gravitate toward when she wanted validation. But something was different this time. She wasn't glowing. She wasn't confident. She looked unsure. She kept glancing at me, her gaze quickly darting away every time I caught it. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I was content to sit back, surrounded by people who actually respected me, people who genuinely valued my presence. People who wanted to be in my life. Olivia wasn't one of them anymore. At some point, she approached me. I could see the nervousness in her steps. I could feel her anxiety from across the room. "Thomas," she said, her voice tight. "Can we talk?" I raised an eyebrow, taking my time to look at her. She was standing in front of me, her eyes searching mine, looking for some kind of answer, some sign that I still cared. But I knew better now. I wasn't the guy who would jump at the opportunity to talk to her. Not anymore. "I don't think there's much to talk about," I said calmly, my tone even but cold. "You made your choice. You moved on." Her eyes flickered with something, guilt, perhaps, or maybe regret. "I didn't know what I had until it was gone, Thomas. I see how much you've changed, and I made a huge mistake." I could see the desperation in her eyes, but there was no sympathy left in me. There was no anger either. Just indifference. It was what I had been working toward. I had learned not to need her validation. "I'm glad you're seeing the changes," I said, my lips curling into a small, almost cruel smile. "But I'm not that person anymore. I'm not the person you thought you could just walk away from. I've become the person I was always meant to be, and you don't fit into that anymore." She swallowed, her expression faltering. "So, that's it? You're just done with me?" I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I simply said, "Yes. I am." I turned and walked away from her, leaving her standing there, her eyes wide with confusion and regret. The bitter, ironic thing? She was the one who had walked away first, but now she was the one left with nothing. And I had no intention of giving her another chance to destroy what I had built. Weeks passed, and Olivia's attempts to contact me slowly dwindled. The texts became more spaced out, the calls less frequent. But one day, I received something different, a message that, unlike all the others, felt more personal. "Thomas," it began. I know you're angry, and I get it. I messed up. I can't take back what I did, but I want to make it right. Please meet me. I need to talk. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to say no, wanted to ignore her, but another part of me felt something else stir. It wasn't anger, but curiosity. Curiosity about what she thought she could possibly say to fix this. She had tossed me aside for someone she thought was better, and now, here she was, reaching out like nothing had changed. It was almost laughable. But I agreed. I wasn't going to meet her with any intention of rekindling anything. No, this was the final conversation. The one where she would finally see just how far I had come. How much she had underestimated me. We met at a quiet cafe, a place that had once been our favorite spot. Olivia looked different. Her eyes had the same tired, regretful look they'd had the night we broke up, but this time, there was no excitement in her expression. No flirtatious energy. Just guilt. Thomas, she said, her voice quieter than I remembered. I know I messed up. And I hate myself for it. I don't know what I was thinking. But I want you to know I'm sorry. I never should have let you go. I didn't rush to respond. I just looked at her, letting the silence fill the space between us. She was waiting for me to say something, to acknowledge her pain. But I wasn't interested in comforting her. I wasn't interested in anything but making one thing perfectly clear. I don't need your apology, Olivia. I've moved on. And I'm better for it. Her face dropped. She opened her mouth to say something, but nothing came out. I could see the realization hitting her, the weight of it pressing down on her chest. You made your choice. And I'm fine with it, I continued, my voice steady. But I'm not here to play the role of the guy you discarded. I'm not the backup plan, Olivia. I'm someone you'll never get again. I stood up, sliding my chair back. I looked down at her one last time. Goodbye, Olivia. I didn't give her a chance to speak. I just turned and walked away, feeling a strange sense of peace wash over me. I had waited months to do this. To see her realize she couldn't just come back into my life on her terms. She was the one who had been left behind now. The months that followed felt like a new chapter of my life. Olivia's messages stopped altogether, and I thought that would be the end of it. I had shown her my worth, and she had gotten the message loud and clear. But I was wrong. One evening, about a year after our breakup, I walked into a bar with a couple of friends for a casual drink. The air was warm, and the chatter of the crowd buzzed around me. I wasn't thinking about Olivia, in fact, I had completely moved on from her. It had been so long since I'd even thought about the life we shared that I almost couldn't recognize the person I had been when we were together. But then, as I turned to grab a drink from the bar, I saw her. Olivia. She was standing near the entrance, wearing a tight black dress that accentuated the curves I had once memorized. She looked stunning, but it wasn't the same. Her face was tired, her eyes searching the room, and when she saw me, a flicker of surprise and recognition passed over her features. She approached me cautiously, her steps slow, almost hesitant. Her confidence, the one that had once felt so effortless, was gone. There was an unease to her now. Thomas, she said softly, almost nervously, as if she didn't know what to expect from me. I paused for a moment, taking in the scene. I hadn't seen her this vulnerable before. I hadn't seen her so unsure. It was almost like seeing a ghost, the version of her that once held all the power over me, now stripped of it. Olivia, I replied coolly, acknowledging her but not giving her the satisfaction of a warmer greeting. She bit her lip, glancing around as if unsure of how to start. I didn't think I'd see you here, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I've been following you, seeing how well you're doing. There was a tinge of something, guilt? Jealousy? Regret, but it didn't faze me. You've been following me? I asked, raising an eyebrow. I didn't realize you were so invested. Her face flushed slightly, and she let out a breath. No, not like that. I mean, I see your posts, and I've heard things. You've really turned your life around, Thomas. I'm really proud of you. Her words hung in the air, and I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but there was something else there too. It wasn't just pride. It was almost as if she was seeing me through new eyes, the kind of eyes that saw value in me only after the fact. I wasn't the one who needed to prove anything anymore. Thanks, I said, not looking at her directly, but scanning the room around me, giving her nothing more than the polite acknowledgement that was appropriate in this situation. She seemed to sense the distance in my tone, and her shoulders sagged slightly. I've been thinking about what you said, Thomas. About how I made my choice. And I've realized. I was wrong. I couldn't help but smile slightly, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was more of an expression of recognition, the kind you give someone when you see them finally figure something out they should have understood a long time ago. You don't need to tell me that, Olivia, I said, my voice cold but steady. You had your chance. I gave you a choice, and you made it. You didn't just walk away from me, you walked away from everything I was working toward, everything I was becoming. And I'm not going back to that. Her eyes widened, and she stepped forward. I don't want to go back, Thomas. I was wondering if we could start fresh. I've changed. I've grown. I see you now, I see the man you've become, and I want to be a part of that. For a moment, I stood there, letting her words wash over me. She wasn't asking to rekindle our relationship, no, it was something else. She was asking for a piece of the life she thought she could discard. She wanted to be part of the world I had built, but it was too late for that. You missed your chance, Olivia, I said softly, but firmly. I'm not the guy you left behind. I'm not even the guy you thought you were done with. I've outgrown you, too. And I've realized that the only person I need in my life now is the one I see when I look in the mirror. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something more, but no words came. She stood there, searching for some glimmer of hope in my eyes, but there was nothing. I wasn't angry with her. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't have room for her in my life anymore. The version of me that would have begged her to come back was long gone. I think you should go, I said, my voice quieter now, not out of malice, but because there was nothing left to say. I turned away from her, not waiting for a response, and walked back to my friends. I could feel Olivia standing there, watching me go, her last chance slipping away with every step I took. But I didn't look back. It wasn't the first time I'd been tested since Olivia had left me, and it wouldn't be the last. Life has a funny way of throwing you curveballs when you least expect them, but what Olivia didn't realize was that every single thing that had happened since we broke up had been preparing me for this moment. For the moment when she came back into my life, not because she wanted me, but because she had come to realize she had let go of something she would never find again. And that moment was my final test. I had faced down the demons of self-doubt, the insecurities that once haunted me in the silence of my own mind. I had stood up for myself when she couldn't. I had learned to appreciate the things I had overlooked while being with her, and in doing so, I had created a life that was mine, and mine alone. Olivia would always be a chapter in my story, but she was no longer the author. I was. As I walked away from her, I felt a deep, unshakable sense of peace. The kind of peace that only comes when you know you've made the right decision. The kind of peace that only comes when you stop looking back and start looking forward. I had no regrets. I had no unfinished business. I was free.